All right, welcome everybody to our first Talkin Ball Postgame live of the 2024 Giants NFL season. A 14-3 win for the Giants over the Detroit Lions. The Giants play physical, 3 forced turnovers on downs by the Giants defense. The running game went well. The running backs ran hard. We have, we had Dante Miller, Eric Gray, Tyrone Tracy, all looking good on the ground. Miller with 63 yards on 12 carries, Eric Gray with 52 yards on 4 carries, and Tyrone Tracy with 5 rushes for 26 yards. The first team offensive line, or the backups who started this game in front of Drew Lock, looked shaky. Lock held the ball too long a couple different times, and that first team offense, let's say, on the field for this game did struggle and struggled mightily. I mean, the stats kind of pop out to you as you look at them. Lock's offense generated 50 yards, an interception, and no points on 18 plays across the game's first 4 drives. But a lot to like in this game. Eric Gray with 2 touchdowns, the 48-yarder sprung by Joshua Miles, making 2 blocks, including sealing on the outside to send Gray upfield. And then he jukes Maurice Norris, who is the guy who popped Eric Gray during joint practices. Kind of a dirty hit. Gray popped back up, came back in to that practice, and now has 98 yards from scrimmage in this victory. Interesting anecdote I can tell you right off the bat. I just heard that one of the Lions coaches walking out of here told somebody, man, they really kicked our you-know-what. And that was referring to the Giants' defense and how physically they played, particularly against the Lions' offense. Deontay Johnson at linebacker, Boogie Basham at edge. Both defenders had 4 tackles and a sack. Elijah Chapman, the rookie defensive tackle, had a sack created by another pressure by Boogie Basham. Trey Herndon had an interception. He did fumble the return, but had an interception as well. And then really it was just a lot to like about the fact that the Giants got all their rookies on the field, second-year players on the field. Malik Neighbors even played 12 reps. Obviously, disappointing that he didn't see a single target. Clearly had some space open a couple times, and the throw didn't come for various reasons. Even the first play from scrimmage looked like a play drawn up for Neighbors, and Brian Dable said that Drew Lock saw the safety coming down at the tight end, wanted to be safe, didn't want to make a mistake, and ended up not throwing it up to Neighbors there. But the bottom line is you have to come away from this game feeling positive about a lot of things, from how physically the team played to how the run game looked to how the running backs looked. Obviously, it's just one game and it's backups on backups, but it is encouraging to see Eric Gray, Dante Miller, and Tyrone Tracy all look pretty good carrying the ball. I do think, the negatives or the critiques or the criticism clearly has to go to how the offense functioned with lock-in, particularly the offensive line. Josh Azudu, who I talked to at length after the game, I really love his perspective. He's working hard to continue to he believes that in time he's going to continue to grow and develop and become a guy who can be both a reliable guard and tackle for this team, and that he's continuing to learn. He has really good perspective on what last season can tell him and show him about how he can grow and develop and understand the losses and take those mistakes and turn them into wins and continue to grow. But the fact of the matter is he has been bounced back and forth between guard, tackle, etc. And I do think that it would benefit him to stay in one place to end up being able to hone in on a specific position. But him at left tackle did not serve them well in this game. Several pressures coming off that side, not all of the pressures coming from that side. There was one play where Drew Lock got hit by 3 different Lions rushers on one play, so you don't want to see that. That said, you have to come away from this feeling good about a lot of different elements, even Miles Boykin and the special teams play of the Giants tonight. Some things to like as well. Too many penalties in this game by the Giants, 10 penalties for the Giants, 7 by the Lions. Of course, when you're playing backups and reserves, that tends to happen in preseason. It can be learning experience. But Brian Daboll needs to get that under control, of course, just from a team perspective. Brian Daboll did call the plays. Again, looking at how the first team offense functioned makes you want to go back and make corrections so that you don't see it happen like that again. The positive is Tommy DeVito comes in and is able to make some good throws to Eric Gray and Tyree Jackson, schemed up by Daboll in some play calls that created some good mismatches, and then also taking advantage of Gray in the run game and bouncing back from an early 3-0 deficit after Drew Lock's bad interception into the belly of one of the Lions defenders, and then leading to the Lions field goal, but ended up being their only points of the game. Jay Jan says, why do I feel good about our O-line? Well, Jay Jan, I think it's because you like how they move the line of scrimmage and were able to create holes and opportunities in space for their running backs. I personally believe there needs to be concern coming out of this, though, as far as how the line functioned at the beginning of the game, the second stringers, the guys who are the top backups, and how they performed against the Lions' top reserve defensive linemen, particularly in pass protection. But I thought in the run game and run blocking, a lot showed up well. That part can be encouraging for the O-line. D-Kit says, testing, historic win. Love it, DK. I love it, D-Kit. Thanks for being here, everybody, on another episode of Talkin Ball Live. This is our first post game of the season. Going to tell you about our sponsors, and then we'll get right underway dissecting the game. Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard is brought to you, of course, by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink. You see it up here on the screen. A natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I personally have felt a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with its beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code here on your screen, TalkinBall25, or access it through the QR code on your screen, you will get 25% off your first subscribe and save order. Right now, that means a month's supply costs you only $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. And just to be clear, the way to get that discount, everybody, go to boomchaga.com, order one order of Boom Chaga as a subscribe and save order, and use the Talkin Ball 25 code. That will get you that 25% discount. Then after you make that order, if you don't want to subscribe and stay subscribed, you can just go in and cancel it out. So I know a lot of people would rather try something first, experiment it with it before maybe subscribing. You can do the subscribe and save order with the code, buy and purchase the product there once, and then go in and cancel that subscribe and save so that it doesn't reorder. That's just a good way to get a big discount off your first order. And I promise, I do believe you will end up subscribing eventually because you will like the product. Also brought to you here by BetOnline, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing where you're betting. BetOnline has every stat, matchup, and live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game is over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slot games. Head to the website today and get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online, the game starts here. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee with no sugar that is convenient for on-the-go professionals and parents. It takes me less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 coffee on ice, or a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to the link, estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. All right, so for those of you who haven't done this yet with us, this is Talkin Ball Postgame Live. I am Pat Leonard, the New York Daily News NFL columnist and Giants beat writer, also host of the Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard podcast on the Believe Network. And what I do is I am here at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I just covered the Lions-Giants game here, preseason in person. I go downstairs. I talk to Brian Daboll at the press conference. I talk to the Giants players in the locker room. And then I come up here. I finish my work with the Daily News. and then I jump on with you guys to tell you what I've seen and what I've heard. So on to the questions. Sugar Ray 71 says, why no Theo tonight? Injury? Theo Johnson, the tight end, the fourth rounder out of Penn State, he did play a little bit early on, and then, had his reps managed there. There was no outward sign of injury. Looked like they just, that's a player who started training camp with an injury and then they worked his way into practices. And so I think they're just managing a player there. No injury that what I could see. In fact, he was in the locker room when I was in there and looked okay. So no concern on Theo Johnson. Hunter Keller says Eric Gray looked good. The O-line depth looked decent. Definitely, Hunter, I think that Eric Gray definitely looked good. He also looked confident, which is something I think coming off of the punt return issues last year and kind of the misuse of him and his skill set. I think he really could use a game like this. It's good to see Eric get some positive vibes going for himself. And also, the touchdown run you saw from Eric Gray is exactly the kind of run that he has hit in his career going back to college. He is a one cut and go guy. And so meaning you saw Jalen Mayfield and Joshua Miles, kind of that combo block. Miles drops inside and kind of double teams a tackle and then goes outside and seals. Eric Gray pops out and has some free space, so 6 or 7 yards to go. Once he's in the open field, he has that one man to beat. He plants his foot in the ground and changes direction, and he's off. And so as much as he's been a running back who, as a rookie, really struggled last year to get anything going and to be much of a factor, we saw him as a factor in the passing game today and also in the running game. So had a nice catch from Tommy DeVito to start that drive. I think it was a 24-yard gain on kind of a swing, like small wheel route, which was schemed up nicely by Daboll. And then he comes back with the 48-yard touchdown run, helped by the O-line. D-Kit says, I was not as down on the O-line as you were, Pat. There were some bright spots. I wasn't down on the O-line overall from a standpoint of how they moved the line of scrimmage in the run game, created some opportunities for Tracy, Miller, and Gray. I think in the run game, there's a lot to build on, D-Kit. And then even later when DeVito came in and they had some of the reserves against some of the Lions' deeper reserves, I thought they functioned pretty well. But in the first several drives when Drew Lock was in the game, if you go back and watch those snaps, and which I'm going to do as well, I felt like Drew Lock was taking a ton of hits, a ton of pretty quick hits, which made me concerned. There were plays, as D-Kit pointed out very well on X, on Twitter, as we were watching the game and communicating there on social media. There were a couple, at least 2 plays where Drew Lock held the ball too long and took a hit because of that. But definitely I didn't like the deployment of Azudu as the left tackle, even though I really do hope that he succeeds, and I feel like he's working very hard to do that. And I just felt like that's not what you want to see. You want to see the offense be able to operate and function, and it really didn't function when Drew was in the game. Jan, I answered your question already or talked about you raving about the O-line, but I wanted to thank you again for that super chat. Always appreciate you contributing. You always do. Thank you so much. If you want your comment or question addressed immediately, you can purchase a super chat or super sticker, and it will be elevated immediately to the top of the chat. I will get to it immediately. Jacob says, Pat, my guy, long time no see, buddy. Is that the interview room? So I am right now in one of the broadcast booths in the press box. So where I'm sitting right now, to my left, a couple doors down, is the area where we sit with the media, as the media watching the game. I sit in the front row and have a great view of the game. But if you move over here, you have some of the radio and television booths. And then also you have some of the Giants in-house and radio booths. And then if you keep going, that's where some of the Giants executives sit. Some of the Giants coaches are sitting, and then the road team coaches are sitting. So a lot is happening all on this one level, but they vacate these areas after the game, and it provides like a nice space for me to come in and talk to you guys with some peace and quiet and not bother my other colleagues who are either punching away as they're writing for their websites or newspapers or doing their own types of podcasting themselves. Jacob says, how did Malik Neighbors do? He got open at times, Jacob. He only played 12 snaps. He was fighting in the run game when he was asked to block. Unfortunately, there were no targets thrown his way. But, of course, good to shake the rust off if you have any, as far as just being in the game, feeling yourself on the field, right? The Giants also did something tonight that was interesting. They introduced the rookies. So instead of doing, a lot of games, they'll do the offense one game, they'll do the defense another game. They introduced the rookies for this game. By the way, something I wanted to point out, I don't know if you guys saw my Giants-Lions arrivals video, which I posted on Instagram, on the YouTube channel, YouTube Shorts. But there is a new hoodie that the Giants are wearing that says, lead, follow, or get the you-know-what out of here. And on the back of the hoodie, it says 2024 New York Giants. And it says, it's simple, not easy. So meaning it's simple to understand what it takes, but it's not easy to actually do it. So I talked to some guys in the locker room. Those hoodies were created by Bobby Okereke. So Captain Bobby Okereke on the defense is the one who created the lead, follow, or get the F out the way. It's simple, not easy, 2024 New York Giants hoodies. So this is the kind of stuff you can't find anywhere else, everybody. Getting to the bottom of it all. Anyone who's listening right now on Spotify or Apple podcasts, as far as after we do all of these, we download them onto the Believe Network as podcast episodes for people who can't be here on YouTube with us live. That's fine. But if you're listening, please go and check at some point the videos I posted with some of the hoodies these guys are wearing. You can see it in the back of the arrival videos. Also, we'll post one with Isaiah McKenzie where you can see it pretty clearly. But thank you for listening. If you're listening, thank you for watching now. If you're tuning in, we're continuing to grow this community. You guys are all a big part of that. D-Kit says, some thoughts. Locke was not good. Jones better not get hurt. Rain helped the Lions more than us. Our defense looked attacking to me more than I expected. Dable looks happier calling the plays. One game, but definitely, yes, I agree. Run schemes seem better. O-line looked more buttoned up. Despite the stats, I do not feel good about our D-line depth and quality. To D-Kit's point, the D-line depth, here's where it is. Who sat on the interior looked like Dexter Lawrence and Raheem Nunez-Roches Nacho. Other than that, like Ryder Anderson, who's been playing as a first-teamer, played a ton in this game. And obviously you can't just sit everybody, right? You have to play somebody. But we saw, essentially everybody but Dexter Lawrence and Raheem Nunez-Roches playing a good amount. Even Jordan Phillips got some run in this game, obviously fighting for a roster spot as a veteran who's kind of behind some of the young guys. But definitely, D-Kid, I think that speaks to, yes, there's competition, but also, you're not having enough people stand out where it's like, okay, we can't play this guy because he's too valuable. They're still trying to see this. Jacob says, can any of the offensive positives be connected to Shea Tierney? Jacob, hard to say. I mean, he's part of the collective, right? So if the offense succeeds, he's part of that. And if the offense fails, he's part of that. Directly, I mean, he spends most of his time with the quarterbacks. So you could look at Drew Lock's failures and Tommy DeVito's successes as both products of work that they've done with Brian Dable, Shea Tierney, et cetera, in this game. So he's really connected mostly to the quarterback. So, I would say it's hard to parse all those details without, like, immediately after the game. It's hard to parse all of that. Lastly, Aziz was invisible against the twos unless I missed something. Yeah, Boogie Basham had a really good game on the edge. Aziz did not make a ton of plays. Let's see. Randy Cook says, didn't see the game. How did the O-line look? It's funny. It's like people are coming away from this game with different versions of feelings about the O-line. My understanding is that the offensive line was praised during the broadcast. And as I said, I do think run game wise, it deserved that. And even, settled down in the pass game a little bit at times with DeVito for sure, with new personnel against new Lions personnel. But I did not like how it looked when the Giants, quote unquote, starters were in the game at the beginning against the Lions, quote unquote, starters. And just to clarify who was in at the start, it was Josh Azudu, left tackle, Jake Kubas, left guard, Austin Schlottman, center, Aaron Stinney, right guard, and Joshua Miles, right tackle. Like I said, we did see some good things, especially once the run game started to pop, and Locke did hold the ball at times. But, Randy, I come out of this wanting to see better, wanting to see more from the first offensive line that takes the field. D-Kit says, Deontay Johnson raised up but went out with an injury. Also, can you help me understand why McLeod didn't play? Deontay Johnson is athletic. He's a good player. He's made plays in camp. I was surprised when I asked Shane Bowen about him, and Bowen didn't rave about him because I feel like he's a guy who looks to me like he's fighting his way onto the field and into the rotation at inside linebacker. I mean, in my mind, he's clearly at least the number 3 inside linebacker behind Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. I think his athleticism, his speed, and kind of the tenacity he plays with should make him a candidate to play more significant snaps once the actual season comes around, for sure. But yeah, no. So sorry, I just got distracted. Jacob says, nice to meet you, Pat. I didn't know who you were before tonight. Oh yeah, no, Jacob, I meant good to see you again. That's what I meant. You're so funny. That caught my eye there, though. I had to answer that. So D-Kit, going back to your question, why Nick McLeod didn't play? Yeah, so Brian Daboll said, hey, yeah, look, he's a veteran. He's played a lot of football. We're just kind of managing him. Here's the bottom line. So Cordell Flott has a quad injury. Deontay Johnson has an ankle. Daboll didn't know the severity. Drew Lock has a hip. He said Drew Lock is sore. Joe Shane was saying on the broadcast that he's okay. So that's really the extent of the injury information we have coming out of the game so far. McLeod's a guy right now that the Giants they're trying to make sure he gets to the regular season healthy, because I know Flott was out tonight because he had the quad. So think about this. Even with him out, McLeod doesn't play. Why? Because to me, he's CB2. He's your second corner. Like, he's your starting corner opposite Deonte Banks. That's how I see it. He's also a guy who, heard it from the horse's mouth, basically. Like, they are managing him and getting him to week 1. Not that he's, like, terribly banged up or anything. Just that he's a guy who they don't want to risk his injury and risk him feeling banged up and sore once week 1 comes around, because they feel like they need him, especially considering going up against that Minnesota Vikings team. But obviously you do need to play guys here. At some point, I would expect Houston to be that dress rehearsal. Let's see. Authentic says, you missed that he had 2 nice tackles, also got a pressure on Trey Herndon interception. Which player are you talking about there, Authentic? Deontay Johnson? Boogie Basham, Deontay Johnson. Let's see. A lot to like from the rookies tonight, like guys making plays. Tyler Nubin took on a block really well and set up a tackle for loss for a teammate. Drew Phillips had a tackle for a loss. Elijah Chapman had a sack. Tyrone Tracy ran well. That you want to see that. Authentic, what's going on? Great to see you, Authentic. Authentic says, I was impressed with the interior offensive line. Thought it got better as the game went, Authentic. And I do like Jake Kubas. I think he's a good developmental prospect. I know D was saying that as well. I do like Jake Kubas. D-Kit, $5 super chat. Thank you so much, D-Kit. He says, to me, Pat, Drew Lock looked uncomfortable from the first snap. Is it possible that this offense doesn't fit his skill set? He hasn't played well so far. Well, it's also possible that Drew Lock is the quarterback that he has been to this point, which is a guy who can make plays, including plays down the field, but is imperfect and does make mistakes and does turn the ball over. I mean, his interception today into the belly of Brandon Joseph was pretty rough. I mean, that was a pretty rough throw. We only got Brian Daboll and Tommy DeVito at the podium. I did not see Locke after the game. So that was disappointing. But so we didn't get any further clarity on that. At least I did not. They opened the locker room when Brian Daboll walked up to the podium. So we'll hopefully talk to Locke as we go, get more kind of context on all of that. I do agree with you, though, that Locke looked uncomfortable. He looked hesitant at times, definitely was gun-shy on that play. And I'll just be honest, like Brian Daboll, he tends to protect guys when he wants to. And he didn't throw Locke under the bus, but when he was asked about Neighbors being open on the first play and whether there was an opportunity to throw it, he did acknowledge that Neighbors was in some space and that Locke saw the safety bearing down on the tight end and that he felt like he saw, maybe some danger in that throw. And so he tried to be safe with it. So it was kind of the coach intimating that they wanted the ball to go there and it was open and that the quarterback didn't throw it there. Now, you do like Drew Lock's mobility when he gets out and moves. But listen, I told you guys in the spring that this could be a competition if Drew Lock made it one. And I've also told you through the first 2 weeks and 2.5 weeks of camp that Drew Lock has not made it a competition. And granted, the Giants have not exactly announced it as one, right? They have talked now in the early parts of the summer, right? Coming out of the mini camp into training camp as if, okay, now it's Daniel's job, right? And so from Drew Lock's standpoint, he may not even think that he's supposed to be pushing Daniel Jones, but he's a professional. So he's going out there trying to put the best football and product and performance he can on the field. And, through 2.5 weeks of practice, Lock's play was mostly either mediocre or underwhelming, like just there. And he has proven that he can throw nice passes down the field. He can push the ball down the field. That's part of what was a little bit surprising about his performance tonight was that he did not push the ball down the field to give guys chances down there. Of course, probably trying to be smart, not turn the ball over as well, but you do need to push it. That said, I think that this is just a reinforcement of the Giants quarterback room really is Daniel Jones, and that's it. It's all on Daniel's shoulders. Jacob says, who was that Tracy kid, the running back? Was he UDFA? 5th round pick, Jacob. You know this. 5th round pick out of Purdue, a converted wide receiver. He's an interesting player. Tyrone Tracy he's 5'11", 210. Like if you walk up to him, he's built almost like a vet. Like he's big. He's not an easy guy to bring down. Like he's physically imposing. If you walk up to him, you would be surprised by it. He is 24 years old, so he's old for a rookie. So coming out of the Big Ten, but not as much wear and tear. Wasn't a full-time running back, converted wide receiver, and so he has some shiftiness and wiggle to him. He doesn't look like he has, the same kind of breakaway speed as like a Dante Turbo Miller, who is really exciting to watch for sure. At running back, has had a good camp. Was their leading rusher tonight. Gray was leading yards from scrimmage, but Miller was their leading rusher and is really kind of explosive and electric. You can understand why his nickname is Turbo. But Tracy showed something good tonight. I liked how he was bouncing around, finding holes, kind of slipping through them, getting some extra yards here and there. I like seeing him fall forward. That was good to see. Patrick Grove says, last year sucked. DeVito made this team. Drew Phillips and Deontay Johnson are on fire. Deontay Johnson, I'm telling you, there's an interview I have with him from early in camp. He was the first player I sought out who wasn't, like a big-time name and just interviewed on camera for our Talkin Ball with Pat Leonard YouTube page so you guys could learn more about him because he really is an interesting player. He's athletic, he's fast, and he plays hungry. Patrick, you said it perfectly. He plays with his hair on fire, Deontay Johnson. I hope his ankle is not badly hurt because, that's a player who can really help them. Iconic Big T Mac, what's up? He says, how did the team look to you, Pat? Do you feel like we still will win fewer than 6 games? Iconic, I think really to change how I feel about the team, I would like to see the starters play. I would like to see more work from the offensive line against, best on best. I do feel, I will say this, Iconic. I feel better about the team this week after this week against the Lions than I did going into it, for sure. Like, no question about it. Mainly about their competitive nature, their physicality. You know, I don't know if you were in here at the beginning of this, but I overheard one of the Lions coaches on the offensive side of the ball came out and was saying that the Giants, essentially in so many words, said the Giants really hit the Detroit Lions offense in the mouth today, and had kind of, really took it to them from a physical standpoint. And so that's really exciting to hear. I mean, that's what you want to hear. This is the time of year where there's, getting the win, quote unquote, doesn't mean anything, right? Teams can lose all preseason and be good teams in the regular season. Teams can win all preseason and be bad teams in the regular season. What you want to see, though, are those kind of tangible developmental building blocks or encouraging developments that are going to, in your mind, help the team withstand the hard times, right? Help the team put its best foot forward when it's pouring rain and it's ugly weather and it's not ideal conditions, things like that. And I think that's what you're seeing from this team. Offensive line was interesting. Steven NJ says, what the F, Pat? What are you still doing there? John Mara is going to kick you out. John Mara and Steve Tisch and the Giants are nice enough to let me do these Talkin Ball live post-game chats with you all from the press box. I do think if I hung around too long after the game, I'd probably hear a knock on the door for sure. But yeah, as much as we butt heads at times over, as people with these teams like to call, narratives, I am permitted and allowed to operate here and bring this news and information to you guys. So grateful for that. Hunter says, is it not a good sign that Azeez played a lot? Hunter, I would say that's a player who, first of all, I will say this. I'm not saying they're going to trade Azeez, but I did notice Seth Walder, my former colleague at the Daily News at ESPN, he wrote up a story for ESPN Plus, I believe, and he created 5 potential theoretical trades that he feels like would help different teams around the league. And he did include Azeez going somewhere in a three-way deal where the Giants got a 5th-round pick next year as one hypothetical trade based on his placement on the depth chart, the fact that he's injury-prone but healthy now, and he has some bend, he has some pass rush ability. Would he be better off somewhere else? Those types of things. So that's just something I felt was interesting. Seth is somebody I really respect, who also has a lot of sources around the league. So he wasn't reporting that's going to happen, but just interesting, take with a grain of salt. I just noticed that. Hunter, I personally think, I've talked to people who know Azeez, who are close to Azeez. When he has stayed healthy, he's actually played a lot of football and worked his body hard to get there. In other words, I've never seen him function well when he takes care of his body by walking on eggshells, like when he's like put in bubble wrap. He's a guy who needs to play, is usually the way I see it. And I've talked to him about it. And like last year when he reconfigured going into that season, his entire kind of workout regimen, obviously he didn't stay healthy the full season, and he's always seems to get nicked up, right? But Azeez is a guy who I think playing him in the preseason can function a couple ways. It could be an audition for teams looking for a potential pass rusher, right? If you're looking to move him because you feel like you have Burns, you have Thibodeau. After that, maybe if they like how Boogie Basham is playing because he had a really good game, things like that. I do think, though, Azeez is a situational pass rusher at this point. If you want to manage him, but also use him as a passing down player who can get to the quarterback and really bend around the edge. And so, he was also, remember, Azeez was a guy who really didn't do much in the spring. He was banged up in the spring and really wasn't doing anything in team drills. So you're trying to get some football underneath him and under his legs as well if he's going to be on your team. Patrick thinks Azeez plays well. Giants found a way to win. Authentic agrees that the broadcast was praising the O-line way too much. That eagerness to say things are fixed. Yeah, and I agree, Authentic, and I think I don't begrudge like a Giants home broadcast from doing that in the sense that it's the preseason and it's a time of year where every team has 0 wins and 0 losses, and hope is what gets you going into the season, excited about NFL football, excited that your team can turn it around. And so I understand that, and I think it's worth pointing out the positives for sure. But I hope what we can do in this community, what we always try to do, Authentic, as you know, is kind of grounded in reality, create some context. And, I know this is, again, another reason why I love this channel and why I love doing this with you guys is I've noticed, like on X or Twitter, it's basically literal shouting matches going on where one person says the O-line struggled, meaning like early on in the first quarter, and then fans are coming after them, and ripping them and saying that they hate the Giants if they say that. And there's all this fighting going on over a topic like that, which to me is absurd because, it's obviously a long game and there's different points of the game where certain things went right, certain things went wrong. Everybody's passionate though. And it's that time of year where the football doesn't matter yet, but it's about to. And so I know everybody's on edge and excited about what it could mean. Joey B. Comedy, what is up? Checking in from Puerto Rico. He says, what's up, Pat? Had no service here in Puerto Rico. Couldn't watch the game. I'm so mad. Please follow me. And I just tuned in all the way from Airbnb in Puerto Rico. Joey B., thank you so much for checking in. You couldn't even – listen to this, everybody. Joe couldn't even get the game down in Puerto Rico, but he would not miss Talkin Ball Postgame Live. One of the diehards, one of the biggest supporters here. Joe, I'm sorry you didn't get to see it. I hope that I'm giving you a full picture of what you missed. I think if you were a fan who was watching this game, to me, everything offensively is what I'm looking at most critically from the standpoint of they just need to operate as a modern offense. So you want to see strides. You want to see improvements in the line. You want to see them run the ball well with Saquon gone. You want to see them push the ball down the field, the pass game, not turn the ball over, right? Protect the quarterback, those things. But if you're a Giants fan, like I think the thing you got to walk out of this stadium most excited about is this defense. Now, listen, they played against Nate Sudfeld and Hendon Hooker, right? So obviously they're playing against backup quarterbacks, that kind of thing. But whatever, they can't choose who they play against. They walked out on that field and they gave up 3 points. And the only 3 points they gave up were off of a Drew Lock interception, which gave the Lions a short field. So I think the physicality of the Giants on the line of scrimmage as a defense, I think the way that they attacked the Lions offense, I think the way that they attacked the Lions quarterbacks, I think the way that they kind of bullied the Lions reserve wide receivers. What this game showed us too a little bit is how much for a team like the Lions, how much the stars do matter on some of these teams. Like, for example, the Lions receiving core, Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back, David Montgomery as a running back. Like, those guys mean so much and take so much of the workload. And really, there's not a ball really going to almost anybody else, other than that group. And none of those guys play in that game. But behind that, the Giants are taking it to those reserves and proving that, hey, if the Lions aren't putting their best out here, we're going to take them on and we're going to kind of control the physicality of this game. And that's exciting to see. But Joe, any questions you have that I haven't answered, please ask, because obviously you weren't able to check out the game. One thing about Drew Lock, he's got a cannon, says Rommel. Yeah, and he does push the ball downfield well, Rommel. That's why you just wanted to see him take those shots. But obviously tonight, I thought it was a combination of, like, remember this. Last year, there were times that Daniel Jones made mistakes, and he was clearly impacted by how much pressure he was facing and how his clock was speeding up and those kind of things. I thought some of that happened today with Locke. I really do. Football is back, Joey B says, no doubt. Any chance the Giants carry a third quarterback like Tommy DeVito, or is he going to be cut loose and hope to get him on the practice squad? Hunter, this is a really good question you bring up here, because the bottom line is, this was only one game. And listen, they guaranteed Drew Lock $5 million this year. So, he's their backup, okay? But that said, and this is only one game, that said, like I wrote this coming into the game when I said, 5 things to watch, right? 5 things to watch in this game. My first one was Drew Lock. And my first point was he hasn't played well enough in camp yet. Let's see more when the game starts. And we didn't see enough when this game started and when his offense was on the field. So I come away from this game. Hunter, I think that's a fair question of yours. Let's say Drew Lock plays similar to how he played tonight through the preseason, right? Do you feel comfortable with only being Daniel Jones and Drew Lock on the roster? Now, I personally think while Tommy DeVito proved tonight that he can function against these Lions backups, I don't think he can be your answer as your backup quarterback to Daniel Jones in the regular season. Now, could it be conceivable that they would keep 3 quarterbacks then if Lock underwhelms in order to try to protect themselves? I mean, you can't rule it out. That said, I mean, it's not the Giants' style to do that with this staff, with this group, and you definitely don't want to burn a roster spot on a third quarterback. But you can also play around with like the emergency quarterback rule and those kind of things. So, he's still my choice and listen, I watch Tommy every day, and he struggles to function at a high level when especially when there's any kind of pressure around him. And listen, he's an undrafted rookie. His story is amazing. All of those things. Happy for him. But I just think practice squad is the most likely place where he goes. If only Daboll can Josh Allen, Drew Lock. Woo. Well, yeah, I don't think you can hope for that, Rommel, but I hear you. Right. Joe says Tommy's going to the practice squad. I think I agree. Joe says, did Jair Asante do anything, Pat? He was on the field, but no targets for Jair, unfortunately, Joe. Was working out of the slot with kind of like the last group of wide receivers with Tommy. At that point in the game, they did throw the ball a couple times, but they were more running the ball than anything. So, I was looking for some. In fact, in the fourth quarter, I was actually calling out, get the ball to my boy Jair because I like him. You and I have talked about that. I like his game, but no, did not see a target. So real quick with some of the stats here. So Drew Lock, 4 of 10, 17 yards, 1 interception. Tommy DeVito, 8 of 15, 92 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Dante Miller, 12 carries, 63 yards. Eric Gray, 4 carries, 52 yards. Obviously, most of that came on that 48-yard touchdown. Tyrone Tracy, 5 carries, 26 yards. Drew Lock had 12 rushing yards. DeVito had 2. And then Eric Gray had 46 yards receiving on 4 catches. And Tyree Jackson had 2 catches for 34 yards. Picking up where he's left off in practice, really making a couple plays a day that kind of pushed the ball down the field a little bit. Hunter says Tracy is a 6-year college guy, so he's a rookie vet. Perfectly said, perfectly put. Tommy DeVito does know the offense. You can give him that. He does know the offense. He's been here. How does it feel to be back in the saddle again, Pat, says Joey B, as I take a swig of water here at MetLife Stadium after Giants 14, Lions 3 to open the NFL preseason here in North Jersey. Joe, it feels great. I was ready to rock and roll. I got here early. I was down at the locker room filming player arrivals. I was there when the Lions came in. I was there for Dan Campbell, Brian Daboll. Daniel Jones, by the way, still rocking the beard. He didn't shave it. Still rocking the beard. I think Daniel Jones is leaning into this, guys. I think he is. I love, by the way, I think I brought this up last time. I love chip on the shoulder Daniel Jones. I love ticked off, Not happy they tried to draft a quarterback, Daniel Jones. Neighbors is an exciting part of this season and a player that's going to be entertaining to follow. But the Daniel Jones, the attitude, kind of a little bit of fire there, the pressure on, all that, like I like it. Rommel says, come to think of it, has a nice ring to it. Giants head coach Brian Diablo. Well, like your typo. Yeah. Well, that would have been a good one for last year, Brian Diablo, considering how he was flying off the handle all the time. Kept his cool more today. D-Kid says, still strange that Deonte Banks played and Nick McLeod didn't, Pat. Well, remember, Banks is a second-year player, and it's still a developing player. Like, even though he's your number one corner, he's still a developing player at the corner position. And so they want him to get snaps and reps as well. I will admit, D-Kid, I was surprised Banks played. I was. Though I looked before the game, I looked at last year's preseason opener, and they did play a lot of their young players a little bit in the first preseason game. So, but yeah, I thought maybe, especially because early in camp, they were kind of like giving him rest days and taking him out of drills and lowering his kind of reps and limiting him. And so that was part of why I felt like he would also kind of get the vet treatment for this game. But clearly they felt like he needed to get more work. And D-Kit, I think they're protecting themselves at CB2 with Flott being hurt and also with, frankly, McLeod being a better cover corner right now. Yes, at the end of the day, the Giants only scored for 14 points for sure. So some of the game stats here. The Giants were 2 of 11 on third down. Lions were 5 of 17. The Giants had 250 net yards of offense to 228 for the Lions. 4.6 yards per play to 3.4 for the Lions. 155 rushing yards, 95 passing yards. By the way, Miles Boykin shot out of a cannon on special teams. Gunnar Olszewski, I thought, playing tough, showing good hands as the punt returner, picking up where he left off last year. Isaiah McKenzie trying to show some juice. The new kickoff rule returns. Most interesting thing that happened was the Lions kicker kind of slipped and accidentally kicked the ball short of the landing zone. And so the Giants started one of their drives at their own 40. So obviously a huge penalty for doing that. But I don't know. I mean, I know I saw Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk saying that he wouldn't be surprised if teams just start kicking it out of the end zone and giving teams the ball at the 30, and that it doesn't serve the purpose of, making sure that teams bring out those kicks. And I think that is a possibility for sure, that there's not enough of a penalty for kicking it out of bounds. And it's kind of a difficult variable to control, when it comes to arranging these new kickoff coverage rules. And, the fact of the matter is, this is actually some interesting insight, guys. I got to talk to some of the NFL officials who were doing the Giants practices this week for the Detroit Lions. It was like an off-the-record session where we were asking and they were answering questions about the new rules that they're covering this year. And, the new kickoff, one of the questions was, what are teams asking the officials in the NFL most about this new rule? And what they said was, most of the teams want to know, when do we have to be still as far as the coverage team and the blocking team in that kind of zone? Because bottom line is, what was happening was they're told, okay, these guys, your players can't move in the lines within 5 yards of each other until the kickoff lands on the ground or is touched by a returner. So the coach's first thought was, well, how can I maneuver these guys who are in the coverage team or on the blocking team at the last second in order to gain an advantage when it comes to either filling a gap as a coverage team or creating a hole as a blocker? So the coaches were all trying to find a loophole there or figure out how they could game the system. But what the officials told the teams is, when the ball gets placed down for the kicker to kick the ball, at some point the official blows his whistle. So this is before the kicker runs up to kick or even starts his motion. So once the official blows his whistle, then everybody has to stay still and can't move from that point until the ball lands. So that robs the teams of any advantage or trying to figure out how to game the system on moving guys around in that zone to create an advantage or outnumber the opponent. And so situations like that are a good example of how maybe the rule is not going to be as sexy and as exciting as they want it to be, because coaches are finding that they can't necessarily game it and create advantages as they would like. But that's just kind of one example. Timothy, good to see you. He says, hey, Pat, the Giants won. Will DeVito be QB2 first for the Giants if Locke is out for the season? Locke is not out for the season, Timothy. He is sore. Joe Shane said on the broadcast that he's okay. We'll see how sore he is or how okay he is. But that's the update we have right now from Shane and from Brian Daboll. They paid him $5 million guaranteed this year, so he is their number two. As far as the contract says and as far as the depth chart and the reps say, he was QB1 all spring as well. And let's face it, listen, I know we saw DeVito do more in this game, but Drew Lock is a better quarterback than Tommy DeVito. That said, you can't take away from DeVito what he did in this game, and it does create an interesting situation depending on how the preseason continues and how comfortable the Giants might feel or not comfortable, with their backup quarterback situation. What happens if Aziz has 16 sacks this year? Do we pay him, says Rommel? Well, that's, a player with that kind of injury is tough to pay, I think, Rommel. I think Aziz would be the kind of player who, 16 sacks is a lot of sacks. I still think that would probably be the kind of player who, if he has a lot of sacks, it would be as a situational pass rusher for the Giants. And so for them to re-sign him when they're paying Burns a lot of money and Thibodeau is going to want a new contract, presumably after this year as well, you're not going to be able to pay 3 edge rushers. So if Aziz is healthy all year and has 16 sacks and they feel good about his medicals, that would be one thing. But usually a player like him with his injury history, his age, and if he had that kind of production and the Giants had a really good year, usually that kind of player would get more money somewhere else than he would get here. It's just how it usually would work. But that's just, I'm kind of putting that hypothetical situation together in my head as you're stressing it. But that's an interesting question. Hunter Keller, what's up? He says, although maybe it's just me, the Giants seem more prepared for an NFL game tonight than last year's preseason opener. Defense had a clear game plan. I thought, Hunter, I think that's a really good point. I also think that when you're talking about it and why they looked more prepared, I do think it comes back to how they're practicing differently. They're practicing more physically. They're practicing with an attitude. They're practicing, they're practicing like a team that is playing a lot of real football to prepare for the regular season. So that means a lot of 11 on 11 in the spring, and it means more physical practices here in the summer. Hunter, I think that's a really good point by you, and I agree with you. Stoudemire says, can't wait to see our starters all play together healthy to truly see how much better this team has gotten. Assuming that the O-line plays solid, we will see more explosive plays even in the run game. Assuming the O-line plays solid is a big if, but you're right. They do have more weapons to take advantage of bigger plays if they are able to protect the quarterback for sure. I think that's a really good point. Stoudemire, I think health is a key to this team. I'm glad you bring that up. That's, the injury updates we bring you obviously is because of availability and just to bring you the news of who's going to be available for the practices in the next game, and it affects the depth chart. But also, obviously, the context Stoudemire is in these years past. To your point, like you look at the offense last year where it was just really difficult for them to ever get their top players on the field all at the same time, right? Andrew Thomas was out. Darren Waller was out. Saquon Barkley missed some time. Daniel Jones then out, right? So that's a really good point by you. They need to stay healthy, and hopefully they do so we can see what they look like. That's why you're one of my favorites, says Authentic. You keep it realistic. Thank you, Authentic. FYI, everybody, just so you know, I said I was going to do this in the spring, sometime in the next few weeks before the start of the regular season, I'm going to start every once in a while having one of you, the content creating Giants fans, reporters, supporters who I really respect their work and who has been supporting me. I'm going to have them come on and co-host a Talkin Ball Live with me, which I think will be a lot of fun. So Authentic and I are going to do one together in the coming weeks. I'm looking forward to that. We haven't put it exactly on the schedule yet. Maybe it could be Jets week, but we'll keep you apprised of that. I think Authentic will bring a really good, fresh perspective. He obviously creates great content. I want to be able to support and promote what Authentic is doing, and he's obviously doing that for me as well. So looking forward to that as well, collaborating with Authentic when the time is right. Stay tuned for that. It'll be on one of our Monday or Thursday Talkin Ball Lives when it works out for both of us. All right, Timothy says, will Kayvon Thibodeau record 24 sacks and win Defensive Player of the Year honors? Unfortunately, Timothy, I think I can safely say no. But the good thing is if he doesn't, hopefully, for your sake, it's because Brian Burns is registering a lot of those sacks on the other side. No, Darius Slayton did not take any snaps tonight. Let's see. How is Nacho looking? I think he's going to surprise this season, says Joey. I don't know why. He got rest tonight, Joey, as a veteran, as a guy who is probably looking at their interior D-line going to have to play more snaps than ideally they would like. So, in practice, they've shown a lot of Ryder Anderson and then Nacho kind of spelling him. So that's been kind of the rotation there, as well as Elijah Chapman and Jordan Riley factoring in as well. Michael says, Authentic, you did see the difference in the O-line. I did. Our backups never looked that good on the O-line. I'd like to believe that coaching has made a difference here. Yeah, I mean, I think some people are I do think there were times, Michael, where you saw real progress as far as run blocking. I didn't think the pass protection early was good. I did not. Theo Johnson, how did he look? Limited play, Joe. Threw his weight around as a blocker a couple times, but didn't play a ton, and was not a huge factor in the game. Let's see. Hunter Keller says, the way I look at it, the Giants, even though it's preseason, they're a well-coached team. It's not big, but a bright side. So here's a hypothetical. Say Tommy DeVito plays well the next two preseason games. Do they just keep him so they don't lose him? If he plays well and their offense is scoring and churning, then obviously it forces you to make a decision for sure. Man, there was a really weird situation in this game. Drew Lock got hurt, and he kneels down, and then the training staff comes out to tend to him. And as he's kneeling on the field, a large portion of the crowd starts to cheer loudly in the stadium. And I'm saying, why are they cheering? And it was because DeVito was running onto the field because Locke was hurt and he was coming into the game. It was just a really, I know people like Tommy DeVito. He's a good local story. I get it. But it was just very strange, right? In the moment, I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? Like your only real backup quarterback just got hurt. But it was because everybody was, a lot of people were here to see DeVito. That was why. But, yeah, I mean, Hunter, that'll be interesting. I think only the Giants can answer that question when they get down to it, but certainly going to be a talking point in the coming days as we head into week 2 against the Texans. Listen, it's all in Tommy's hands. Like, it's in Tommy's hands to force the Giants' hands. He hasn't done it all training camp. He hasn't had a great training camp. But, here, of course, the lights come on. Drew Lock struggling. Tommy DeVito comes in, hits Eric Gray, and off they go, right? Run game starts getting going. Now, that said, of course, 14 points all in the second quarter. Like we said, 8 for 15, 92 yards, a sack, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But the Giants managed the game enough, and that's all you're asking for right now in the preseason is some progress there. No more Daniel. It's DJ with the beard. Like it. Hunter says they were clowning Daniel Jones' beard on the broadcast. BS. Enough of that. That sounds like some Yankees shave your facial hair BS. Get it out of here. Dable looks good. They shouted him out with his weight loss. Proud of him. He is a thin man. He lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. Will Tommy DeVito do a commercial for Jersey Mike's subs? Hey, I think he'll do a commercial for anyone who will pay him to do a commercial. Hunter says, I don't like the new kickoff rule. Yeah, it's a little herky-jerky, a little hokey, Hunter. But this is an interesting point that these officials were saying to me the other day, too. The NFL needs this new kickoff rule to work, because if it doesn't work, what's the next idea for not just totally eliminating the kickoff from the game altogether? So that's an interesting way to think about it too, is it doesn't feel as sexy as you thought it might. It doesn't seem as exciting as you thought it might. It looks like something where maybe these teams are going to, like I said, just kick it out of the back of the end zone like we've seen before. But the NFL doesn't want to see that. And so how will that evolve? That'll be interesting. Yeah, you guys don't like the kickoff rule either, for sure. Stoudemire says, running back by committee approach. New earth, wind, and fire now will be motor, turbo, and horsepower. Oh, I like it, Stoudemire. Motor, turbo, and horsepower. Hunter says, wasn't Tyrod $5 million guaranteed, though? Last year, we saw what happened with him and that mess. Tyrod was the best quarterback on the roster last year, Hunter, as far as how he performed, for sure. So not exactly the same thing, but Joe says, Authentic and Pat would be a dope show. I will be comic relief. Yeah, can't wait for that. Authentic, the man. Evan says, hey, Pat, to me, the defense looked better stopping the run, and the offense looked better. Yeah, listen. So to your point, so the Detroit Lions had 30 carries, 118 yards for 3.9 a carry. A lot of that actually was Hendon Hooker, 4 carries for 34 yards, a quarterback scrambling using his legs. Got banged up, though. Nate Sudfeld ended up having to come back in. But, to your point, Reynolds, 4 carries, 11 yards, 2.8 per carry. Jefferson, 5 for 9, 1.8 per carry. Funk, 4 for 9, 2.3 per carry. Zonovan Knight, 6 for 12, 2.2 yards per carry. And Sudfeld scrambled. The only guy was Sione Vaki. He had 4 carries for 29 yards for 7.3. But that was the only running back who had any success there. Listen, the Giants' defensive line really kind of bullied and pushed around. I thought the Detroit Lions offensive line for sure. Really the Lions couldn't move the ball all game. And, credit to the Giants defense. They were prepared. They were tough. They were hard-nosed. Great to see. Let's see. DeVito might be Hostetler 2.0, says Rommel. Oh, my goodness. You're putting him in the Jeff Hostetler category already? Holy cow. Build a statue. If DeVito plays significant snaps this year, then things have gone very badly. Exactly. Why ruin a good part of the game? Nothing more electric than a kickoff return for a touchdown. Because everybody was just kicking the ball out of the back of the end zone, and they weren't kicking it off to the other team. Most teams were just kicking it out of the end zone. And so special teams was basically being shoved aside, pushed by the wayside. And when they did return, the injuries are higher on kick returns than other plays. So the NFL didn't want to eliminate. So there were a huge push in the NFL from coaches and people and teams. They didn't want the kickoff and special teams to be marginalized and people losing their jobs because it's not a play anymore. And then the NFL saw it as an opportunity to say, look, we're doing something to promote the health of our players as well, because look at all the injury rates on these plays. New kickoff rule reminds me of Olympic handball, says D. Interesting to watch for about 30 seconds, and then you realize it's goofy and you stop watching. This has been a great chat. We're going to keep going here. Just want to tell you guys about Boom Chaga. Talking Ball with Pat Leonard is brought to you by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory, immune-boosting antioxidants, and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. I feel a post-workout-like energy boost with Boom. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with beta-glucans and antioxidants. Go to boomchaga.com today to place your first order. And if you use the discount code TalkinBall25 or use the QR code on your screen, those are both right here if you see them, you will get a 25% off your first deposit, 25% off your first subscribe and save order. So right now that means a month's supply only costs you $30. Start feeling the difference today at boomchaga.com. So just to be clear, go to boomchaga.com, go to the subscribe and save order, order 1 pack, and type in Talkin Ball 25 code, and that'll get you down to $30 for an order. And then you can just cancel the subscribe and save order. So if you do the one-time order, it's going to cost full price. You do the subscribe and save with the code, it'll cost you only $30. And then it's not going to tie you for any more than that first order. You can just go in and cancel if you want, or if you like it, you can keep the subscription. But that's the way to get the deal. Also, buy Estate 98 coffee. Go to estate98.com/talkinball to get a special buy one, get one free deal. Natural specialty coffee, no sugar, convenient for on the go. Go get it. All right. Let's see. All right. Authentic says Hendon Hooker left with a concussion, but looked like the best quarterback on the field before that happened. Trucked the hell out of Javarius Owens. Yeah, he learned. It was like the Daniel Jones way of learning. Hey, it's great that you can run, but you need to protect your body and yourself so that you can play another play. So, remember Daniel trying to run over, who was it, Jabril Cox on the Dallas Cowboys a couple years ago? It's like, hey, you're a really tough player, but we need you to play the next play, and you can't if you're concussed. So Hunter is clarifying. I think I misunderstood him earlier. So he said, you said Drew Lock being paid $5 million guaranteed means they probably wouldn't move off of him as backup. But that's why I use Tyrod as an example. He was decent guaranteed, and they played DeVito over him when they shouldn't. Hunter, good point. Good point. That's fair. That's fair. The season was completely in shambles and in the dumps at that point, and they were really, I think, at that point, just trying to keep fans in the seats, right? So that's what that looked like. And, kind of ride the wave of whatever the heck that was. Obviously, what it was they were forcing a ton of turnovers on defense and then getting some opportunistic play on offense. All right, let's see. Stoudemire says, overall, the second and third string players were fundamentally sound. Not too many mistakes, certainly room for improvement. All we can hope for is the Giants starters elevate their game. Yeah, 10 penalties. You do want to see that cleaned up for sure. That's a lot of penalties. Of course, reserves, they're just backups, so it's okay. Obviously, learning experience, you expect more mistakes from guys who aren't your high-end guys, but you do want to see some discipline there. You got to clean that up. But no, I agree. As far as the run blocking goes, some technique inside, the way that they played physical and pushed Detroit around a little bit on the line of scrimmage, and also the way some of the young players played and made some plays here and there, I thought were encouraging. Joey B says, love Tommy, but Hostetler 2.0, I want some of the weed you're smoking. Yeah, I know. I think that was a hopeful comment by our man Rommel up there, but brightened the chat, so appreciate it. Another swig of water here. Hunter says, Allen Robinson not getting a lot of reps. I don't know how you read that. Is he trending up or down towards making the roster? Well, you know what happened, Hunter? Allen Robinson and Isaiah Hodgins were both playing with Drew Lock. And, neither got a ton of opportunities because the offense really wasn't functioning. Hodgins had 2 targets, no catches. Allen Robinson had 2 targets, 1 catch for 9 yards. So really, you were hoping that they were going to see more receptions and more opportunities because they arguably could be battling for a roster spot. But that's part of why it was disappointing, kind of that first string offense, so to speak, of this game wasn't functioning. No, Hunter, I think Allen Robinson, if we made the roster today, Allen Robinson's on the team, in my opinion. So, I read it more as they were trying to get him up the ball as part of kind of that first wave of players that was in, and then they couldn't get the ball to their receivers enough. Hodgins was the target on the bad interception lock through. And then after that, it's kind of like, okay, this isn't going to happen. Let's move on here. Joe says, hey, Pat, just saw your message. Love you for that, bro. I thought maybe Pat's going to do a live. I'll get some info then. Yeah, so what Joe's talking about is he DM'd me on Instagram, and he was worried because he couldn't find the game on TV or anywhere in Puerto Rico. And so at a certain point, I was trying to help him with that, and then I reminded him, hey, let's go live on Talkin Ball Postgame Live and make sure we're there, and I'll try to fill you all in. So, listen, I'm here to try to tell you guys what I know. That's what we're doing. And Joe, you're as loyal as they come. Appreciate you. Stoudemire says, we appreciate all your time and efforts to keep the fan base connected. Major salute, bro. Thank you. Thank you for being here too, Stoudemire. I really appreciate it. How many balls were caught by wide receivers tonight, Pat? All right, so we got Robinson had one, Ford Wheaton had one, and Hyatt had one. So 3. 3 passes caught by wide receivers. So Robinson 1 for 9 yards, Bryce Ford Wheaton 1 for 6 yards, and Jalen Hyatt 1 for 0 yards. So that's 3 catches for 15 yards for wide receivers in this game. The other catches were Eric Gray had 4 for 46. Dante Miller had 2 for 7 at running back as well. Tyree Jackson had 2 for 34. And Daniel Bellinger had 1 for 7. But to your point, D-Kit, that's not a lot of passes completed to receivers. I hope just for a true vet presence, Allen Robinson makes the roster. He's impressed so far, Hunter, so I think he does at this point. Joey B says, how does a guy like Allen Robinson go from a good player to a guy hoping to make the team? Hunter points out injuries and being on the Bears killed Allen. Yeah, for sure. I think he's 31 years old now, too. So, I mean, he's not quote unquote old, right? I mean, I'm 40. Who am I talking about? But, being 30, he's 30. Allen Robinson is 30. He turns 31 on August 24th. So, getting up there as far as NFL players go, but he's very good at the line, really good releases, gets open very well. I mean, so here's what Allen Robinson is too. He's the kind of guy, like if he plays against a backup corner, he cooks him. Maybe when he's playing against top corners now, he's not the guy he used to be, in some cases. But if he's playing against a reserve corner, you have him in the slot against a rookie, stuff like that, like he's going to win. Pat, I'm not sure if Bryce Ford Wheaton is going to stick around, not getting an NFL wide receiver there. So unless he plays on specials. D, I agree. I don't see him on this roster right now. It always seems like he's getting nicked up too. And listen, I've said this a couple times now, but Miles Boykin, he's here to play special teams. He's a good gunner. He's playing with his hair on fire tonight. Made 2 aggressive, really impressive plays right off the bat on his first 2 coverage plays on punt coverage. Like, Miles Boykin is on this team. Miles Boykin is on this team. Authentic says, man, just 3 passes caught by wide receivers show how lackluster the offense was. Yep, not enough. Stoudemire says, one thing that is noticeable is that the Giants' linebacker depth and performance has improved the last 2 years. Stoudemire, it needs to be better than it even is right now. Listen, Bobby Okereke's presence changes everything. Like, that's one thing I think Joe Schoen is definitely doing, is trying to acquire top players at positions. So Brian Burns at edge rusher, Bobby Okereke at linebacker, Malik Neighbors at wide receiver, right? Like, those are 3 examples of let's try and get a premier player, even if our depth isn't where we need it to be yet. And then hopefully that helps us fill in underneath, but we know we have like a top guy. And so the way I look at the Giants' inside linebacker depth, because right now it's really Bobby, Micah McFadden, and then you have Deontay Johnson, who started. Muasal, the draft pick, started next to Deontay tonight, but then you have Carter Coughlin. I mean, really, to me, it's like a 3-man depth chart for guys who are actually going to play meaningful and, I guess, productive snaps on Sunday. Carter Coughlin's looking and hoping for that type of opportunity. He's hurt right now. But to me, it's Deontay Johnson behind those two guys. So that's why I don't want to see Deontay Johnson miss time here, because I think he can help them. And I think he needs to help them because McFadden has some strengths, has some weaknesses too. I think Deontay's strengths maybe complement Micah's weaknesses a little bit. Joey B says, but we got to remember these catches sent with the ones. It's with backup, or not with the ones. It's with backup players. One preseason game, I will give it some more time to mesh. Yeah, no, it's all preseason, but just talking about what it is. Game on the line. I want him on the field. Allen Robinson. Yeah, no, I like him as a player. I've liked what I've seen. We only scored 14 points, but they only got a field goal. That's a positive in my eyes. Yeah, Joe, if you were at this game, if you watched this game, you would have just loved watching the defense. Listen, we all know that the Giants' bread and butter, we want to see them have a modern offense. We want to see them up there with some of the highest scoring offenses in the game. We want to see them scoring in the 30s, right? We want to see them, be explosive and take advantage of Malik Neighbors and Daniel Jones turn into something even more than what he was even in 2022, right? We want to see all that. But we know that when the Giants organization and franchise and team is at their best, their defense sets a tone. And, 2 years ago in 2022, even though Dable did smartly get creative with the offense, especially early and using the run game, and they had that 6-1 start, that was a defense-led team as far as the game plans, as far as attacking, as far as being on the offensive, on defense. Last year, 31 takeaways, tied for first in the league with the Baltimore Ravens. But obviously, I'm referring to the Super Bowls, to some of the best Giants teams, to all the best Giants teams, all driven by the defense. And, Joe, I think you would come away from this game feeling like – because I've said this on this channel before. I'm worried about the Giants' defense this year. I'm worried about how they're going to look, how they're going to do against top offenses around the league. I'm worried about what I'm going to see when it's best on best and they're facing the CeeDee Lambs and A.J. Browns and Saquon Barkley's and Justin Jefferson's and the guys they're going to see. And also their run defense in practice has not been good. Not, against themselves at times been okay, but then when they played against the Lions, I didn't like what I saw. So this game, it's encouraging to see them control the line of scrimmage there as a D-line, to see, guys like Boogie Basham making plays, Deontay Johnson flying around, some of the rookies contributing. I liked what I saw for sure. And I think, Joe, your point about them only giving up 3, and they had 2 red zone forced turnovers on downs on the Lions offense, which is good to see. Kind of, the bend but don't break element. Facts, Stoudemire, facts. The running back 2 battle is going to be very interesting to watch, Pat. Yeah, and also the running back 3 battle is interesting because I'll be honest, like coming out of all these practices, like it was a very clear depth chart to me going into this game. And again, I'm not saying like it was finalized. I'm just saying it was very clear to me that it was Devin Singletary 1, and then Tyrone Tracy probably 2, and then Dante Miller 3, based on how he has played. Eric Gray's play tonight entered him back into the conversation. I still think Miller's a really exciting player. And I like Turbo a lot. And I said this to a couple of people. I was talking to people in the Giants locker room today. All of these players and athletes on the field are great athletes. They're great, talents, whatever. They're better athletes than most of us have ever known or seen in our lives. But there are some players who are just way more fun to watch than others. And Turbo is that. Like, Turbo is a guy, like, every time he gets the ball, I go like this. Like, I was literally, I was having some fun with some of the guys in the press box. Anytime he would get the ball, I would just go, Turbo, because it was kind of like an alert to everybody, like, here we go, because you never know. He might be taking it to the house. He's like the kind of guy, it always looks like it's going 20 yards when he gets the ball. Even if he ends up getting wrapped up at the line of scrimmage, he's got so much juice. By the way, kind of a tangent here, but I was talking to Joshua Miles in the locker room because he had that really nice seal block to spring Eric Gray on the touchdown run. And he was raving about Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach. He said that he's got a really easy way about him. He said he's got a way of taking the complicated things and simplifying it. So he was raving about basically Brasillo as a teacher and the fact that the offensive lineman, at least from his vantage point, he was saying that, it made him understand everything better, that he is feeling confident, and this was Joshua Miles talking. Joshua Miles saying that, like, he feels like he is a guy who can help them, that he's feeling confident. And I even heard that from Josh Azudu, who didn't even have a great game, but they do feel, how do I put this? They sound optimistic. A lot of these O linemen who aren't playing perfectly by any means, but they sound optimistic. And Miles was saying that Brasillo is, a good coach. He's attentive to detail. He explains things well, and it gets across quickly to players, and he doesn't overcomplicate it. Hunter says, if you were to guess opening day is tomorrow, what's the starting defense? So if the game if they played the Vikings tomorrow, it would be on the D-line, it would be Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, either Ryder Anderson or Nacho, and Kayvon Thibodeau up front. It would be Banks and McLeod on the outside. It would be McFadden and Okereke inside linebacker. And it would be, that's 4, 6, 8. And then you have Drew Phillips starting slot, rookie. And then the safeties, I think by that point, will be Tyler Nubin and Jason Pinnock is my guess. Of course, there would be different packages. Like today, they came out with 5 down linemen on first down. So their first, the Giants' first defense, like when they first stepped on the field, it was Azeez Ojulari, Ryder Anderson, DJ Davidson, Jordan Phillips, and Boogie Basham. And so then, obviously that's the kind of alignment where, you don't have a slot corner necessarily on the field because there's not 3 wide receivers on the field. And they started with Nubin and Dane Belton at safety, and Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks at corner, and Muasau and Deontay Johnson at linebacker. So hope that answers your question, Hunter. Obviously, there's different sub packages, like where Isaiah Simmons gets on the field as the nickel or the dime. And then also there's certain pressure packages where their interior is, I don't know if it's the NASCAR package that Spags runs, but it's kind of similar to that, where maybe they have like more pass rushing guys up down on the line instead of run stoppers when it's an obvious passing game. I want to see more of that Colts game 2 years ago, offense-wise. Oh, from your lips to God's ears, Keller. Joe says, as soon as Saquon left, I told everyone we only have defense to root for. They're going to steer the direction of this team. So as long as they keep doing well, I will take 11 games of 14-3. Oh, no doubt about it. Eric Gray has entered the chat. That is right, Joe. Eric Gray has entered the chat. And just another example of me, like, I'll give credit where credit is due. Last season, they weren't using him correctly, and Gray was struggling. He wasn't making plays. Then it was hard for him to get on the field. But now he's making plays, and you got to give him credit for making the plays, right? I mean, encouraging to see. Stoudemire says, honestly, what will help take our defense to the next level is for Ryder Anderson and Basham to be that 4th legitimate pass rusher. Let's hope they continue to develop and improve. Yeah, and you know what? I don't know if it's fair to ask. But here's one thing I do believe. I believe that it's unfair to ask people to be something different than what they are. And so what I mean by that is, if Boogie Basham is if his ceiling is a helpful backup defensive lineman, don't force him into a starting role. or if Ryder Anderson is a helpful backup interior defensive lineman, don't force him into a starting role. Now, when you have young players, those guys can develop and grow and become those types of players for sure. But I do think, we need to not expect them to be something different. We need to appreciate and use their talents as a coaching staff with the Giants and as an organization for what they are. So, in other words, what I'm saying is, in a perfect world, I think you're adding. You would ideally have more talent above those players and then have them in a supporting role rather than, now Basham is in a supporting role in his current role if he's on the roster because he's obviously not a starting edge with Thibodeau and Birds there. But like for Ryder Anderson, for example, I think you want him in a rotation there. I don't know if you want him starting and putting the weight of the world on his shoulders. But, good kid, hard worker, strong, and it just could really continue if he continues to grow and tone his body like a monster, really built that way. Huge Turbo fan. I'm watching preseason for him, says In the Zone. Yeah, he's a blast. Joey B says, speaking of Basham, any update on his injury? Boogie Basham? Did I miss an injury? You guys tell me if I did. Is somebody reporting that I missed as we're on here? I did not see that. I did ask Daboll what he thought of how he played, and Daboll said I have to go watch the film, which was a bit surprising because I didn't totally follow that. Let's see. Simeon says, I saw the highlights but missed the game. DeVito is looking like QB2. Whoa. Definitely a major takeaway I'm getting from this chat is that big talking point with Giants fans right now is what does QB2 look like after this game? So Joe says, I thought I saw Basham got injured and carted off yesterday. He was carted off at practice on Tuesday, but he was just overheated is what it was. Now, Stoudemire is saying, I believe Basham has a lower leg injury, possibly ankle. Are you guys confusing him with Deontay Johnson? Because Deontay Johnson had an ankle injury today. I don't know if Basham did. Let's see. I'm going to check on that as we talk right now here. All right, let's see. Hunter Keller says, 100 watchers here on Talkin Ball Live at almost 1 a.m. It's great how much this has grown. And you're a huge part of that, Hunter. Thank you so much. Yeah, we're sitting here. It's almost 1 o'clock a.m. Eastern on August 9th. And we are doing our first Talkin Ball Postgame Live, and we've been in triple digits really the whole time, or most of the time. Joey B says, Pat, do you go to a salon, don't you, to get that hair done? Get that hair did. Getting real Vidal Sassoon vibes. You're killing me. This is the Joey B comedy part of the chat. No salon. I'm a barbershop guy. I have done salon before. Depending on where I live, whoever I know, whoever I trust, that's where I go. But I'm really a barbershop guy through and through. So this is a barbershop haircut, man. Got to stick to my roots. Let's see. Welvin says, just joined. Not so sure if you touched on this. Did Daboll say Flott is above McLeod if he wasn't injured? I don't believe he said that. Let me go back to his exact quote here So he says, Flott would have played, but he had a quad injury. We'll see how he is. Young defensive backs, and really Nick, meaning Nick McLeod, had a lot of experience. He's played a lot on special teams. You want to see some of these younger guys too. We played Banks. We'll see where we're at when we play Houston, but playing a little bit here. And then he was asked, is Nick a little banged up, Nick McLeod? And he said, no, he's okay. We're just making sure we take care of him. He's done a lot of running. That was more of an individual plan. Plus, he's played a lot for us in the kicking game. We gave him the night off. So usually what that means is that a player is a little nicked up, some wear and tear there, and that he's not injured, but that with a guy like that who, let's face it, and this is what I said earlier, Welvin, I think that they trust him more as a cover corner than flat right now on the outside. So I think they want to make sure they get him to the season healthy. Did Beavers get any run? Yes, he was playing in the second half, had some tackles. Let me get you some defensive stats too while I'm at it, guys, because I realized I didn't kind of get into the nitty-gritty there. Beavers actually led the team with 5 tackles, with 1 for a loss. Ovi Ogufu had 4 tackles and a pass defended, actually on a 4th down to turn the Lions over on downs. Matt Adams, 4 tackles. Holmes, the new guy from Washington, 4 tackles. And then Boogie Basham, 4 tackles and a sack. Deontay Johnson, 4 tackles and a sack. Muasau, 4 tackles. And Alex Johnson had 4. And then who else had sacks? Chapman, Benton Whitley had a sack to force a turnover on down. So they had 4 sacks as a defense and 8 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits in addition, 8 passes defended. So really good to see those numbers. Let's see. Won't Stop Dream Team says lit. Indeed, we are lit here on Talkin Ball Live. I'm not saying Tommy deserves to get that backup quarterback, but I do think put the money aside. If he outplays Locke, he should get the backup. Hunter, I agree. If a player outperforms anybody, it should be merit-based. I agree with that. I just personally, like as D-Kid said earlier, I don't think DeVito playing means a winning season for the Giants. I know it's a fun local story and a lot of the fans like it and gravitate to it, but I don't think it's a good thing for the team. I don't think their offense is good with him in there. Stoudemire says, oh, so yeah, you were talking about Deontay Johnson who hurt his ankle, not Basham. Correct. Sorry to confuse anybody who's listening on audio as well. So the injuries were Flott has a quad, didn't play. Deontay Johnson hurt his ankle. We'll see where he's at. Drew Lock hurt his hip. And then outside of that, we'll kind of see more as we go. Joey B says, I'm going to fire your barber. I'm bringing my clippers next time I see you. You got to come do a Talkin Ball Live from Faces Barbershop on the bye week. I'm loyal though, Joey B. I'm loyal. So I'm not just going to drop someone that easy. So to round this out, this has been a really fun Talkin Ball Live postgame. Bad sign if Tommy ends up in the game. I agree for sure. Yeah, so to round this out, I think my main takeaways are this. Primarily, I think it's disappointing that Drew Lock ends up getting banged up enough that he ends up leaving the game with a hip. I think he got hit too many times. I would like to actually go back, and we'll talk about this more on Monday's podcast for sure, and I'll write about it in the New York Daily News as well. But when we go back and look, I think you'll see that just too many hits on the quarterback. You don't want to see that. You want to see more passes completed to the wide receivers, and you want better pass protection, and you want to see – listen, they played Malik Neighbors for 12 snaps, and you didn't get a target. Obviously, that wasn't the design, so they were unable to get a target to Neighbors, even though they put him on the field to get him acclimated to the game. So not exactly something you want to see there. Obviously, they have other ways that they get him the ball, and they're not putting him in harm's way at this point, like jet sweeps out of the backfield, right? But I'm really excited to see the starters hopefully play a chunk in the first half against the Houston Texans. Looking forward to that. And overall, really excited about getting Talkin Ball postgame live back and running. Hunter says, I'm just happy Giants football is back. Optimistic it will be more of 2 years ago than last year, but just happy to be back. Amen. Remember, guys, we are sponsored here by Boom Chaga Mushroom Super Drink, a natural extract loaded with anti-inflammatory immune-boosting antioxidants and heart-healthy compounds. You can easily pour this natural liquid supplement into any of your favorite drinks. I put mine in my coffee every morning and immediately feel the difference. Chaga also has the ability to lower cholesterol, reduce inflammation, and improve immune and heart health with beta-glucans and antioxidants. I feel like I'm post-workout without doing a workout when I take it. And you can go to boomchaga.com to place your first order. So go to subscribe and save order, put the Talkin Ball 25 code in, or use this QR code here, and you'll get 25% off, $30 only for your first month's order, boomchaga.com. So go to subscribe and save, use the Talkin Ball 25 code, buy it for that huge discount, and then you can cancel the subscribe and save if you don't want to commit to it. Also brought to you by Estate 98 Coffee, an all-natural specialty coffee. No sugar, that is convenient for on-the-go professionals and parents. Takes less than 10 seconds to make a delicious Estate 98 iced coffee. Only a minute more to make a hot coffee or latte from this all-natural concentrate. Go to estate98.com/Talkin Ball to buy a special one. You'll get actually a special buy one, get one free deal. So estate98.com/Talkin Ball. Get a buy one, get one free deal. Please try these products out, guys. If you want to support Talkin Ball Live, I would encourage you to at least try them once. The Boom Chaga with the Talkin Ball 25 code and the Estate 98, helping good companies that have good products that I believe in. We're also sponsored here by Bet Online. Stoudemire ends us off by saying, what is the new corner's name that just joined the team recently who used to play for the Commanders? Got to give him some credit because of that late pass interference. He bounced back 3 plays in a row. Yes, that is Christian Holmes, I believe is his name. I think I have that right. Christian Holmes. So, yeah, I agree. That was good bounce back. And, yeah, I think the main takeaway from this positively, in addition to the defense, is the physical, resilient nature with which the team played. An encouraging night, some encouraging developments. You can take positives from this. Simeon says, thanks, Pat. Good night. Hunter says, good night. Safe drive. Joey B is all about the Estate 98 El Salvadorian blend. Yes, go get it. Try it. You'll love it. I drink it all the time at home when I'm doing Talkin Ball. Stoudemire, thanks for participating and being here as well. Have a blessed night, everyone, and says, let's go, G-Men. Joey B says, thanks, our sponsors, and thanks, Pat, for always giving us the best insights, bro. Get home safe. You guys get home safe. Have a good night. Looking forward to talking more Giants and getting more info to you on Twitter or X, PLeonardNYDN, and all my channels, PL on NFL, PL on NFL on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Threads. It's blowing up on Threads too. Go follow me over there. And, of course, on the New York Daily News website, nydailynews.com. This is Pat Leonard from the Talkin Ball podcast on the Believe Network signing off. Thank you, guys, from MetLife Stadium. See you next time.